Well, 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 we have ourselves another slip joint here. And yes, of course, this is another TwoSun. This is the TS256-M398. And it's -M398 because that is the steel that it's using. Now, M398 is basically kind of a fork of M390. Does come from Bowler. And it has been around for about 10 years or so, but really hasn't been kind of picking up much traction with knife makers. It seems to just kind of be getting around to that point now, but yeah, this is one of the first easily obtainable knives that I've seen with the material. So yeah, slip joint, we have a whole bunch of milling here on the titanium scales, and a whole bunch of holes going on there. The blade is pretty interesting in that, well, seems like it might be a little dirty. Yeah, that's probably my fault. But yeah, so this blade is basically all sorts of crazy. We have a whole bunch of belly at the front of it, and then we have kind of recurve going on there at the end. That does actually make this thing quite difficult to sharpen if that's not something that you've totally perfected in, or not perfected, but totally gotten quite good at in in a reasonable amount of time here. So yeah, it is a little bit difficult to sharpen. And yeah, you can even see I never even quite fixed the rolled edge from the other side on this guy, so I still have just a little bit of work to do, and you can see, yep, I even have a little bit kind of going the other way. So yeah, I never quite finished sharpening this, however I thought I did, so I will have to kind of go back to that. This is a night morning design, and I really do think it's pretty comfortable. We got a 3-finger grip going on here with very comfortable sort of thing going on up here. I suppose you can sneak up there if you're really just looking for a little bit more tip control, but yeah, that's mostly a sharpening choil. I wouldn't really consider that a finger choil or anything like that. We got a dual matchstick pull, which those are kind of my favorites. I certainly do like them more than a nail nick. They make them much easier to open up, especially when you get larger hands and or you don't want to dig fingernails into a knife to be able to open it. Because, well, I keep mine relatively short, but there's a lot of guys out there who, through anxiety, chew their nails off and other things like that. It just makes it a little difficult. But yeah, no problem whatsoever kind of pulling this guy out. This particular specimen here doesn't have a super strong spring tension on him. I would probably give it a 4.5, maybe a 5 out of 10. So yeah, it's fairly easy to break that just by putting a little bit of pressure on there. The walk and talk on it is pretty darn nice though. Very nice and smooth. It's riding on phosphor bronze washers in there. And yeah, I did plan originally on doing some rope cutting tests with this thing, but because of the just the straight up design on this thing, where I don't have belly where I would kind of need it, I did kind of give up on that whole thing. I will probably try to figure out something else to do with that, but of course I also have to properly sharpen this thing too, which, as I showed you at the top of the video, it probably hasn't exactly happened the way that I thought it would. But yeah, this is a pretty interesting little piece. This isn't the only full titanium, what's the word for it, slip joint here that I've seen, but it's one of the few that I have from TwoSun that is fully titanium. Yeah, there's one that I do have that I haven't taken a look at, and I do plan to in the near future. That does have a full titanium variant. However, I have the carbon fiber variant, so there you go. But yeah, with that being said, I don't think this one is incredibly difficult to open up. So I do actually kind of want to take a little peek on the inside here. And that feels like that is the wrong side to be messing with. So I will just retighten that back up and go for this side. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. I would rather take out the pivot screw rather than the pivot itself. All right, and we got one for the spring sort of thing over here, and yeah, this is probably not going to be super easy to open up, as happens on a lot of these things. That's where a spudger can come in handy. As I've said in the past, yes, this is a steel spudger. Well, for one, it's accidentally coated in a whole bunch of adhesive because I do use it a lot for trading out stones on some sharpening systems. But yeah, if you are at all worried about scratching anything, certainly use plastic ones. I do have some of them, but this little iFixit Jimmy here is it does a pretty darn good job. And yeah, I don't necessarily worry too much about scratching things up. But yeah, so we are inside here. There's the phosphor bronze washer. We do have one on the other side too, but you know, for the sake of simplicity and all that sort of stuff, I don't really want to remove the blade. I can. This one, again, not super difficult to get in there, but yeah, we don't have nylon washers or anything kind of going on there. But we do have skeletonization kind of going on both sides, which is pretty cool because that means we do have a bit here on the inside as well as the outside. It makes this thing just a little bit lighter than it otherwise would be. This isn't a supremely lightweight knife. Let me actually get the blade pushed all the way in there. It was creeping out on me. But yeah, it's not the most lightweight thing that has ever existed, but it does a pretty darn good job of kind of mitigating some of that. Now, the fun usually with trying to put back together slip joints, especially those that have pins, are actually getting the pins to line up along with everything else. And for whatever reason, whenever that happens, I always seem to lose the bronze washer there. And that's just a little annoying. So I should try to keep some pressure all up on there. Come on. There we go. Alright, pretty much not so much a difference kind of going on between the pivot and everything else here. You can see this isn't actually fully aligned yet. So, yeah. Well, let me open the darn thing back up. All right, bud. Looks like it's getting a little dry too. I have properly lubricated this in the past, but it kind of looks like it needs a another go at that. Alright, well the front is kind of good. This kind of has to go from the back. You can't really push it in with the scale facing down towards the blade. And the posts don't really like it when you do that. So again, yep, that's kind of that way. But when I think about it, I do have access to it. So screwing it back together will actually torque it back to where it needs to be. So yeah, no problems there. I should have just done that from the start, but I wanted to see if it wouldn't snap together and all that sort of stuff. But no. Oh, the pivot's just a little bit tighter on there than I left it, so there we go. Yeah. So, you know, as I've shown in some videos, including this one at this point now. I'm going to zoom the camera out just a little bit by lifting it up. There we go. You can take apart slip joints. A lot of times, it's probably not in your best interest to do so unless it really needs some heavy-duty maintenance. Speaking of maintenance, I just want to put just a little tiny bit of KPO, just a little tiny bit there and there. And I can open them up, close them. Sure, it doesn't feel that much different, but you know, it was running a little drier than usual. Okay, so yeah, last thing. This one's going on a little bit longer than a lot of the other ones, probably because of the disassembly here. But yeah, so sorry about that, but you know, y'all got fast forward buttons and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the specs. As with all of these things, specs are going to be down below in the description as well for all of these guys. But we got 2.35, 2.36 ounces, just under 67 grams. So yeah, not super heavy, but something that you will end up feeling in your pocket. Not something that's just going to absolutely disappear. See, as far as blade stock thickness, yeah, it's fairly thick at 4. It is a little bit longer than some of the other crazy ones that use super thick blade stocks there. And I mean, it's mostly a full flat grind. I mean, you know, it is basically halfway out, but it still does have a reference point up there, which I do actually kind of prefer for knives that aren't incredibly tall. Speaking of length, which I don't think I actually said, but it was the next thing that I was going to take a look at, is, yeah, we got 2.6 inches there. So it's not an itty bitty tiny little Victorinox, you know, SD Classic or anything like that, but you know, it is a 3-finger slip joint. So there you go. No clip on this particular model, so yeah. Most slip joints don't, but you know, they do have a few of them that do. Obviously, we've taken a look at a few of those, and yeah, we have basically 4.56 inches, so a little less than half an inch thick. But yeah, it is lovely curved, or you know, contoured and whatnot from top to bottom there. So you know, actually having it all up in your hands, it actually does do a pretty good job of filling your hand out. It's not really like you're holding on to a thin little piece. You definitely got a little bit of that thickness going on there. But yeah, The only thing that I could say I would probably prefer on this thing, well, I mean, for one, the belly at front and then the recurve is it's an odd design choice. It certainly works pretty well for you know, doing utility cuts and whatnot, you know, opening boxes and that sort of thing. But yeah, it is a little bit more difficult to sharpen. But I would like a bit more of a stronger back spring on this thing. It's you know, I wouldn't really call it unsafe necessarily, but I do really feel a little bit more comfortable with yeah, probably a 7. That's probably right around my preference for lockback strength on there. But yeah, this is the TS256. Interesting steel, interesting blade, interesting design. But yeah, there we go. All right, so as always, I appreciate y'all for watching. Have yourself a wonderful rest of your day, yo. And subscribe.